This is a video demonstration of SpatialXL using CAD data, which comes from a variety of CAD files. SpatialXL is an add-in to Microsoft Excel, which gives Excel spatial capability. And when I click on SpatialXL after I've installed it, I can click on Show SpatialXL, and that'll open up a spatial pane and a layer area for me. Now, to open a DGN file, I'm just going to drag and drop a DGN file on here. I can decide whether I want to see this by as a flat file, so in other words, a file that's just got different themes turned on, or if I want to actually split them up in layers by level. I'm going to choose this as it gives me a good coloring. And now in here, I can actually choose my projection. This projection didn't come with a file natively because it comes from a CAD format, but I can actually allocate a projection to it so that it correctly displays when looking at it with other data related as well, such as Google Maps. So you can see from this that there's data over a very broad expanse. That is because this file was incorrectly created and it has invalid data that we often see with CAD files. So I'm just going to zoom into one area of this. And here you can see the actual CAD file. Let me just go and view from the top. Just get my orientation right and zoom in again just to get it to view properly. Here we go. And this is the CAD file as it was designed in MicroStation. So the way that it is broken down, you can do basically an isolation of these various things, turn layers on and off, and that will turn various things on and off so that you don't see all of the annotation, etc. as well. So what we can do with this type of file is we can also take away a lot of the invalid annotation, etc. To clean it up so that it's mostly just the geometries, so we can work with them in a kind of clean way. To do that, I'm just going to remove the file that I've added here because I added them before, and I'm just going to turn on my storyboard, which is an awesome feature. So with the storyboard, I can now navigate through the different things that I set up. So this is the view that I had before, which it floats out because that's how I captured this node. And I actually set up a second view, which is when I cleaned up the file. I actually did a theme and made it like one single file so that I can pick up the data that is the actual data, not the annotation and grids around the data. Now I also set up a 4-view split so that I can see how this data is formed and where it is located in three-dimensional space. And just to show you that this is a three-dimensional world, I'm just going to do a this is like a rotate, and from this you can see there's a smooth rotate where I can see where this data is located. It's a full 3D universe. Now, a nice thing I can do now that the data in these levels is actually correctly not annotation and so on, is I can actually move this to my worksheet so that I can further work with the data. So to do that, you would go move to worksheet, and you would select all your geometries, you would internalize your layer, and then that way you can actually create the data in your worksheet. And now, instead of the data coming from a DGN file, it actually comes from a particular worksheet, which is in here, in my Excel workbook. So if I go into my Excel workbook, you'll see here that I've got my element IDs, my entity IDs, etc. Let's just get a single view of my data. I'll just use my storyboard to get back to the single view. Great. Okay, and I'm just going to close this so that I pop this back into my Excel workbook. Just want to make this a little bit thinner with no border. There we go. Now what we can do with this is we can further now work with this data by creating a filter field up here, and we can now, for instance, filter out everything that's not, for instance, level 25, and that'll immediately filter out all of the data that's not level 25. If we select all of them on, it will turn all of them back on, and so on. So this is one way you could sort of unpack your, there's only a little bit of data there on level 0. So this is a way you can unpack your CAD files and actually control them via the workbook with Excel itself. And to give you an example of that, I've set up another file here called Workings Selected Items, which is over here. And in this particular field, I've added a whole bunch of cost breakdowns so that I can now see what different percentages and groupings I've actually got as well. So let me just show you how that would work. So again, you can basically control this from Excel side, and I can do a number filter greater than 50,000, for instance, if there was a cost associated with doing certain things, and you can see how it filters out a number of items. From our column chooser, I can actually add a total column and a visible items column so that I can see what my totals are as opposed to what they were before. So if I take my filter away now, you will see the data change. Let's put it back again and do a filter on 70,000. There we go, and now we can see how many items remain from the total item, and you can identify them on the map such as this as well. We also have a identifying tool where I could select particular items and I could see what they were, what their geometry was, what their different totals were, etc., percentages and so on. And I could flip through and see, depending on how many things I've selected here, 28 items, I can go through. I can also select this in Excel and it'll jump to the row in Excel that I've got over there as well. The same way you can also select here and then jump to the highlight selection, zoom and highlight, and then that will jump to the particular row as well that I'm actually looking at, and that will select the data in there as well. So there's a fantastic interaction with filtering and so on between Excel and the map using SpatialXL, and the ability to control your CAD data and add meaningful information to your CAD data through the use of this. Now I set up some other, I'll just take my filters away here first. I've set up some other data just to look at the workings and seeing how they look in this particular CAD file. So if I click on the first item here, like we've seen, it opens up that view again. And then this will show me, this is data that I filtered out before I moved it to Excel. Then I have the 4 views that I've already shown you as in terms of looking at this data here. Then I have a costing coloring, which I've done coloring per certain different cost analysis, and each item has a different color based on what the cost associated with it is. And then I also have a dashboard that I've set up where I can actually select items on my CAD file here, and I can say, okay, well, what are the costs associated with this? by grouping, with a percentage, with an indicator gauge, and so on as well. So those are just some of the things that you can do with CAD files, which maybe you weren't familiar with before, or not knowing that you can do that simply in Excel. But this is a great product to work with CAD files. I also have some other dashboards here. Let me just do a zoom fit. So I've got another file which is located in the proper space with Google Maps at the background. And just to show you how this file works, if I go into the properties of this particular file, you will see that it comes from a DGN file. MicroStation, DGN, of course, we work with AutoCAD, many other different files as well. And then just to show you on the projection, I chose the actual correct projection, which then projected on the fly to World Mercator, or I think this might just be lat long. And yeah, it can translate the projections properly because we assign the correct projection to the file. So it really brings the GIS world properly into CAD so that you can really have a look at your data properly. Also, just to show you how we can relate different CAD files to one another, these ones were designed together, and you can see they are related to each other, and they also come from DGN files. Let me just do a proper rotate here. Just want to make sure that I hook it properly here. There we go. And now you can see this is a proper file. When you do these kinds of rotates, you might also find where data is invalid or where it is correct. So you can get a proper 3D world view of this, including the 4 views that I've shown you as well. So this is just some of the things you can do with CAD files using SpatialXL, and just some other aspects of it. I just wanted to show you what different data sets, data sources this can come from. So we've got GEMCOM SERPAC files, Google Maps, we've got grid files, image files we can locate as well. We can pick up straight from Google Maps. There's different kind of map info tab files here, database related files like Access, Postgres, SQL Server, and so on. MicroStation, which I've shown quite a bit, Model Maker as well as, of course, SQL Server database, I think I've mentioned already, Surfer files, block models. I mean, the list just goes on. Here's some data mine block model, point and string files, as well as wireframes, CSV files, and then AutoCAD, DWG, DXF files as well. And of course, Esri shape files. And all of these can work together in one single environment, which is the environment that we're looking at here. So it doesn't matter if you've got 2D files and 3D files mixed up. It doesn't matter if you've got your Google roads with satellite or without. Also images, it can all display in one environment and overlay beautifully using the layer control over here. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the demo, and let us know if you've got any questions.